Well, Rabbi, you had mentioned in your email to Sally that you would like to talk about the past history of Spiels.
Yes, happy to. So thanks everyone for joining us. Cantor and I are really excited to be with you all and give you a little bit of behind the scenes of the Purim Spiel. I just wanted to begin with a little bit of really brief history of Purim Spiels and why it is that we kind of have made this such a central part of our of the temple's calendar year. I actually just gave a lecture to the high school seniors who have to listen to me, which was about a 45-minute exposition on the history of the Purim Spiels. They managed to stay awake for it, but I'm not going to do that for you. But it is actually a fascinating story because in many ways, it's not difficult to draw a direct line from the medieval history of Purim Spiel through the Marx Brothers to Jon Stewart. The history of Jewish comedy, which has really become the underpinnings of American comedy, and thus kind of world comedy, really trace their origins to the Purim Spiel. The Purim Spiel is known as one of the oldest folk theater traditions, European folk theater traditions, still in existence, and has been maintained pretty consistently, and is maintained as it has come in and out of fashion, as the rabbis have disapproved it, which made it more popular, as it was done by sort of the intelligentsia, which made it less popular, and then as all of the fringe people in society, the jugglers, musicians, and students kind of took it over, and that made it something that was even more something that people wanted to get engaged with. The deal of the Spiel is that the Book of Esther is itself a theatrical book. It is an exaggeration. It is really intended to be. It's written in an outrageous way, in a style that was common in a sort of literary theatrical format of ancient literature. And not that it was really written to be performed, but it's easy to be performed. And very quickly, it became something that you're not just telling the story of Purim, but you might tell some of the other biblical stories in there too, just to kind of throw it around and make it interesting. And then you might throw in some other stuff that's happening politically or just, in the community. So it's making fun of other people. And it gets to be a kind of pile on and really a lot of fun. In modern times, of course, the custom has really become to take known songs, and particularly in 20th century, to take 21st century, to take movie musicals or Broadway musicals or other kinds of things, and to rewrite the lyrics and to create something that is authentic to the community that's right there. So there's a shared vocabulary in the telling of the tale, but it's done in a way that's curious and potentially amusing. Okay, sorry, got some side stuff. So the other piece that I think has really been a shift in recent decades has been from the idea that in American Judaism, particularly in the 1950s, 1960s, where Jewish identity, post-Holocaust in particular, was very focused on children. You join a synagogue because of the children. It's important to make sure the children learn, alles für die Kinder kind of attitude. That turned Purim into a children's holiday. That was a unique thing. Purim, although children were always engaged in Purim, it was never intended to be a children's holiday. And if you read the Book of Esther, you can see why. The themes of genocide that are there, there's lots of sexual innuendo, there's all kinds of stuff going on that is, not really G-rated. But so the holiday was kind of converted. Everything was really focused on the carnival, which was this kind of American tradition, and really focused on making it a children's holiday. And I think many of us grew up with Purim as being primarily a children's holiday. I've always felt that this was an amazing opportunity to make Purim, to make Jewish living something that was more engaging for adults, and especially, my upbringing is a little bit different than maybe some of yours, but being the child of a Holocaust survivor and growing up in that boomer era, I was always taught a version of Judaism that was very dour, that was really focused on, 6 million died, you better stay Jewish. You're the only hope for the future of Judaism. Judaism is going to disappear in another generation. Next decade is going to be the end of Judaism. Every decade is going to be the end of Judaism. It has been that way throughout my life. And so it was a lot about responsibility, and I always wanted there to be a very strong element of joy in Jewish identity, because I think Judaism is very joyful, and there's something that's just marvelous and wonderful and fun to experience. Cantor was reminding me there's some great pictures and movies from the early days of Palestine, of Israel, before it was Israel. Well, it was Palestine, but it was from the Jewish Yishuv that was founding there. And Purim was a major celebration because life was hard, even in Tel Aviv. And they were trying to build something brand new, something that was not the shtetl. And Purim became a real center of it. It was a secular holiday. It was a Mardi Gras. And you have these wonderful pictures from the 1920s of these people all dressed up, and the Queen Esther was elected by the city to be the Queen Esther, and it was a major dinner. And I've always loved that, and I always wanted to make sure that we had this opportunity. So in my previous congregation, we had a guy, it was an attorney, who was really, really good at writing parody songs. And he sort of modeled his writing on Capitol Steps, if you've ever seen their stuff. So it's very political and also very focused internally. And we had this annual event called the Temple Follies that was all about sort of making fun of the board and the president and the rabbi and all of those kinds of things. And they were great. They were lots of fun. They were super popular. And every year I said, you've just got to do this for Purim, do the same thing, but let's just do it on Purim. And he would never do it. He was always like, no, Purim is its own holiday. You could do whatever you want, but this is its own thing. And I could never move him. But it was a big community builder. There was a whole troop of people who really were engaged with that, and they put it on stage, and it was very fun and very popular. And so when I came to Portland, I wanted to kind of bring some of that, but I wanted to do it for Purim. So the first year, actually, Cantor and I wrote a Purim Schpiel that was based on the Borat movie that had just come out. I've never actually seen the Borat movie, but I knew enough about it from all the articles that were around, and I heard some of, a couple of little bits about it. So we wrote this spiel that was mostly, we used a lot of Borat. I was kind of the Borat character and telling the story, but we used a lot of Broadway musicals of various shows. So, it's like my favorite was one. My favorite's because I wrote that one. That was from Brush Up Your Shakespeare from Kiss Me Kate, but it was Bump Off Ashweris. And it was the two guards who were sort of singing about all the different ways that they were going to kill the king. And which was kind of fun, I thought. But we kind of did that. And then very quickly, Jemmy Costner Manfield, who strong theatrical background and very clever writer and all that. She asked if she could write the next one, and then it just took off. And for years and years, she wrote them, directed them. It became just like this major effort. We started off with the idea of it being clergy and staff, that it was sort of like this was our gift to the community. But we started having more and more people participating, and a bigger choir, including a kids choir for the Pirates. We did one of the last ones with Jemny was from it was all Gilbert and Sullivan's Pirates of Penzance, but it was the Pirates of Purim. And we used basically every pirate shtick you could possibly think of, mostly from Pirates of the Caribbean, but from Disney movie and everything at Peter Pan and everything else you could think of, and mushed it all together. And that was a lot of fun. But we had a kids choir that year, which was very cute. So we had all these kids running on and off the stage. And it was, we had this just sort of very fun experience. But it has really become, particularly now that Eric Friedenwald Fishman has taken on the responsibility and the joy of writing and directing. Eric, for those of you who know him, is very much into community building. That's sort of his shtick. And so it's really been about creating community, particularly of the people who are the actors and singers and dancers. And it becomes a very, in the best form of community theater, it is a group that becomes very, very tight and really engaged with each other. We do a lot of community building exercises through, and the idea of it being building community with everybody else, that it's something that's really engaging for everyone else to participate in. Cantor, I'm talking a lot. Cantor, and what do you want to add to that?
I wanted to just say that as you were talking about how it's so important for us to also experience joy, that I feel like, especially now, Purim is exactly the holiday we need. Our spirits are heavy with the news of the 500,000, and we're all kind of mourning and grieving and figuring out ways to move through our days. We've been hit with the loss of power. It just feels like one thing after another. So for this week, as for most of us, the power is back on. Please God for all of you, I'm assuming, since you're on this call. I feel like this is the opportunity, and the Jews through the centuries recognized how important that was for the human spirit, to be able to take a little break from the gravitas of and the challenges of everyday life, and to turn everything on its head. And as Rabbi said, the story of Esther is complete hyperbole from beginning to end. I just saw a very funny take on the last chapter, this whole song that was written about how we just don't sing that last chapter because it's so horrific. It's talking about the murdering of Haman and all of his sons and all of the people, it's
the end of the story is a war.
Yeah, not only did the Jews win, but everybody else dies. So, it's complete hyperbole all the way through. So we take that opportunity to just have fun. And this is, as Rabbi said, this is this huge community builder now, that the people that are involved with the Schpiels really look forward to this every year. So the thought of not being together and not doing it this year, we thought, oh, maybe we'll just do a retrospective, because by now, we have these 14, 15 Purim Schpiels under our belts, and we have footage, and we could have done that. But then Eric had this bing moment of, he says he was inspired by Rabbi Joseph, who had been saying we should do a Disney Schpiel, and he had always said, oh no, are you kidding, Disney? And he thought, you know what, this is the year for it. It'll appeal to lots of different ages. And so that's what we did. And so now Rabbi's going to give you a little bit of the behind the scenes, and I can tell you a little bit about the musical behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, just to, Cantor's really right about this whole thing of the need for joy, and a reminder that, for Jews, this is not our first pandemic. And through it all, we've had our Purim Schpiels. We've kept our calendar, even in the most dire of times. And there's wisdom to our calendar, and I think this is a big part of it. Before we do a little bit about this year, we've got a teeny tiny retrospective that we can show. So, Shoshana, could you share that with us, please?
Schpiel is in my country very famous time. Almost as happy a time as national holiday we call Running of the Jews. Why do you bow down?
Anytime.
In my enormous hall, and so literally tons of royal sweets. I better wake up and take me there from instruction of your Persian king, and it is a glorious thing to be your Persian king. It is hurrah for our Persian king, hurrah for our Persian king. I am Mordecai, not Hitler, not Shammai. I'm Mordecai. I lead my tribe with each rising of the sun. For Esther and Mordecai. Haman, killing Jews is what he's aiming. Mordecai, the wolf bow down, gets so mad he wants to kill every Jew in town. Could be Vashti. Just the party's not going great. Drinks are weak, getting late, falling asleep. Bow low to me and pray no more. Pray no more. Pray no more. Give up your faith and we'll say no more. Bow low to me. What's your name, man? Haman the Agagite. Haman the Agagite, and I'll be king when the time is right. Just you wait, Jews, you wait. What's new? Shushan, Persia. I'm a Jew. I want to say I'm just a little stuck on you. You'll beat on me too.
Thank you for showing that. Yes, Rabbi Joseph had that made for my 25th year of the rabbinate for me. It was very sweet. Though they're not all about me. But one thing I think we've all learned is that Rabbi Cahana cannot dance. Anyway,
He does everything else.
but
So,
not dancing. But I think for those of you who've seen Purim Spiels over the years, you're getting a reminder perhaps of what that's been about. So this year obviously was very different. We recognized, actually it's the Purim was the very last community event that we had before the pandemic. I mean, we shut down immediately afterwards. We had Rabbi Joseph's wedding shortly afterwards, but not a community, the community-wide event. So, and we were talking about the fact that there's this weird disease going on, and we don't know exactly what it is, and it's going to be a problem. So it's very emotional, actually, coming back to Purim this year, just remembering what it was like to be on the stage. And I think as we were preparing for this, it became very clear that we weren't going to be doing the same kind of Purim spiel we've done in the past. So as Cantor said, well, maybe we'll just, put together videos like we just saw, except like string it all together and kind of tell the story. And wouldn't that be fun? But we, Eric was, as she said, was really determined that we would go forward. And so we started to plan out, like, just technically, how can we do this in a safe manner? Can we have, like, we knew we were going to film it, not do it live, but maybe what we could do is have like 10 people in the room at one time, and we'll like have 2 people on the pulpit at once, and they could be far enough from each other, but we could still film them singing together, and we could do it in that kind of way. Maybe we could do some things outside. Lots and lots of planning as we went through about what would be the right way to do it. And then December rolled around, and the spike, which was really the worst that it has been, November, December, and we said that there's just no way we are not going to put anybody in any kind of danger. It would be completely irresponsible, and so we settled that the only way to really do this would be to have everybody filmed individually from their homes, and have no gatherings at all, not even for rehearsals. So I know everybody here is very experienced with Zoom, and you probably have noticed that you can't, 2 people can't speak at the same time on Zoom. So we're always like, oh, I was once, and it pops in and out. But if you think it's hard to talk on Zoom, imagine what it's like to sing on Zoom. It actually can't be done. Or you can sing individually, but what you can't do is have more than one person singing at a time. So you had to come up with some kind of way of doing this. First of all, rehearsing. I don't know, Cantor, you want to talk about the rehearsals and how that worked? I'm going to get ready to show some videos.
Yes, we thankfully we have an amazing music director, Tim Ribner, Tim's been with us for some years now. He trained at Manhattan School of Music in jazz and classical music, and he just can do anything, and including arranging. So all of the music, the piano tracks were pre-recorded so that we could be listening to them and then singing over them. But he didn't
give you an example of that. Can I?
Okay.
Or do you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No, I just was going to say he didn't only create piano tracks. He literally orchestrated using his computer, the MIDI components, so that you're not just hearing piano, you're hearing all of these other sounds that he was able to layer in and add on.
So
you're going to play.
Yeah, I'm going to play it a little bit. This is the beginning of the song from Mulan, I'll Make a Man Out of You.
So that's good. So that's the piano and drums.
That's one person.
Right. And he did this, of course, for all of the songs. He also scored the underpinning for the narration. We have a narrator, just like in any good storybook. fairy tale. So Eric came up with this idea, rightly so, that it should be like the whole opening of a Disney storybook, and it's actually Paul Fishman. I think Paul's on this call, who is the wonderful narrator, kind of a la Princess Bride, Peter Falk, if you've seen that wonderful movie. So he tells the story, and underneath that is this lovely kind of noodling that Tim is. So when you see the Purim Spiel, you can appreciate all of the layers of this, from the costuming to the backgrounds. Like, for example, what the rabbi has behind him, there were all of these incredible backgrounds that were created by Robin, and Shoshana also helped. Shoshana, who's helping us with all of our tech on this call, helped with these amazing backgrounds. And then we, as the cast, had to learn which backgrounds we needed to have as we recorded our segments, because it would be different. So there was the costumes, the background, the music, the direction. Like, who would think that you would actually direct something? But Eric came up with a way, and Rabbi can maybe show you some of this. And I think he has the book, maybe. And so, when you're directing something on Zoom, it's very different. It's kind of like right is left and left is right. And so you say, look this way. And I'm sure you've all experienced this when you don't know where to look exactly. So Eric planned out exactly, if you had two people in a scene, well, you could only record each person individually. So you had to be looking as if that person is over there. And then that person had to be singing or talking and looking over there at you. And he had this all completely worked out. It was a mind-boggling, New York Times crossword worthy puzzle of figuring all of this out. And he actually drew pictures of the characters and where they would be standing, etc. So the visual of just putting all this together, the musical of putting it together, as Rabbi said, in all of our Zoom rehearsals, because of the compression of Zoom, and that you can't sing simultaneously, because then the sound is, you're never really together. It's coming at different times. So you have to just sing individually. So what we would do is, I would either play a recording of Tim's underscoring, or I would actually play the notes on the piano, and I would sing or do a warm up. Everyone in the choir, there were 23 people in our Purim Spiel, 23 or 24 in our Purim Spiel this year. Everyone's on mute, but they're singing in their own home, as in the same way that we encourage all of you to sing during services.
I have a little video of that I can show you.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. See a little bit of this. Here's Cantor Green.
We're rolling?
Rolling.
This is us filming it on Zoom.
Raina, Esther.
You have to say your name
Esther. I don't see.
in order for the camera to find you.
Okay.
That's Eric, our
Is it still
director.
working? Is it still working?
So we got some great outtakes in all of this. And now she's listening, and you can see that she's just listening to the music and reacting to what other people are singing, even though she can't hear them singing.
She's listening to the piano score of Tim Ribner and imagining the voices singing. Very good imagining.
And looking at where people actually are.
And I want you to look at the background. You see the Disney castle and the town's houses, but over her left shoulder, you can also see the dome. Every once in a while, if she moves, you'll see it. You'll see the temple dome. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if I can get
Hard death. Hope she doesn't see right through me. Hey, let's use the come to dinner trick on them.
Right. So there she is, like doing her own part of all of this.
Do you have a shot of the?
Yeah, I was going to bring that. Just one second. Let me.
You can look for that. The other piece of this that is exceedingly complicated. I mean, first of all, it's very weird to be singing by yourself, only your own part, even though you're listening to the accompaniment. You feel so exposed, and I have to give credit to everybody in the choir for, during these rehearsals, I would say, okay, who wants to try their part? And they would just, one by one, people would just have to sing. Usually the comfort of being in a choir is that you're supported. You feel all those other voices around you. It helps you with the pitch and the line and how it goes. If you forget something, well, at least your neighbor knows it. You kind of fake it. But in this case, it's just you singing. So I have to say, the courage of everyone to just man up and woman up and sing individually was pretty amazing.
So here's one of the, this is one of the complicated thing is really getting everybody to sing together. So here's an example of Eric singing one of the choir parts.
You're a mensch. You're a mensch. You're a mensch.
Right, and he keeps on going. So that's his whole part. He just keeps saying, you're a mensch. But you have to kind of put that all together.
That's from Mulan.
Yeah.
Let
me
Disney
just
aficionados.
Yeah, I want to show you the. So just one second. Here's an image I just want to share. All right. Sorry. Are you seeing this this image of the?
Yes,
okay.
We're seeing both your computer and that image. It's a little smaller in the right.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I wasn't getting it full.
So the other very, very complicated part of this is the putting together, which the video editing, which Rabbi Cahana did, which I still don't understand how he did it, even though he has explained it to me. I understand, but I don't.
So this is a computer program. It's known as Adobe Premiere. And basically so you saw that image of Eric singing that one line. Now we had 24 of those images of all the choir members singing together, and they had to be stacked one on top of the other. So this is a section of that song, but you can see here's the audio track. There's a video that goes on top of it, and you basically just add them all together, which is a little more complicated than it sounds. But let me share with you a little bit of what that can first sound like when you're doing it. Get that to.
Here's the storybook, as you'll see.
Sorry,
the Schpiel will go along.
Get to where we're going to. Here, all right. So here is a group of everybody all singing together. As you can hear, that was a mess. Getting everybody lined up to actually do that together is pretty complicated. Remember, they're not even singing together when they're doing it. So everyone is just singing all by themselves. Here was another attempt at it. A little bit better, so that was the trick, is kind of getting everybody sort of lined up and people, listening to the music correctly. In all of this, so we had some some parts where people would record things from home on Zoom and just send us the videos. The majority of it, we had everybody, we would say, okay, we're going to record this song now. Everybody who's on this song, be on Zoom, and we will record one at a time, each person singing their part while they're listening on another device. They've got headphones on, listening to the recording you heard at the beginning, and doing their own little section. So
we had actually two main recording days where it was one of the days was kind of like a 9 to 5, pretty exhausting, and the other day was more like a half day. But what we had was kind of like we had two Zoom rooms. We had a green room where everybody could just be hanging out and figuring out what do they have to do next, what's their background supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. You can see all the different backgrounds. And then when they were ready, we had a stage manager, Robin Taylor, who did these amazing backgrounds too. And she would say, okay, time to go into the other room for your recording. And they would go on in. Okay, are you going to play?
All right, this is from the actual version that we're going to show Thursday night.
Make a mensch out of you.
Oh, sorry, I meant to know.
Oh, yes, we
Just a little bit further.
Out of you.
You're a mensch. We can serve the sketch snack. You're a mensch. With the inside of your brain can be. You're a mensch. We will need to take extra colors.
So, with about 3 more weeks of fingling, I probably could have gotten everybody to line up, but that's about as good as it's going to get. But just to give you that's a little bit of the process of what's involved with making all of this work. But it was a lot of fun for people recording it. I think there was a lot of anxiety about the technology. We tried to talk everybody through the technology and how to make it work and try to calm everybody down, and kind of getting all of these individual recordings and getting everybody to send us the recording on time and putting it all together. It was a very different experience than I think any Purim Schpiel that we've had before. But I think it's actually going to be a lot of fun. Let me just share with you one last little video. This is without anybody in it, but this is our intro to the entire thing. So there we have the temple entering the magical world of Disney Enchanted Purim. And if you, here, I'll give you the little surprise, so you'll be in the know. At the very, very end, after the credits, after everything else, you'll see that same intro backwards. And then the magical castle turns into the temple once again.
I don't think I saw that.
So, yeah. So that's what I showed you was the intro. That's the outro. But really, thanks to there's these wonderful graphics that Robin developed, and that this was very, very much a team effort. And we're talking about my editing, but it's very much about how much everybody put into this, and with a lot of heart and soul. And I hope that everybody will enjoy it.
Yes, I hope that really tell people about it. Sometimes I know people get tired of Zoom, but boy, this is an effort that's I think so worth watching. So we wanted to see if you had questions just about the process, or anything Purim wise.
I just wanted to mention that when we were on a Torah study on Saturday, we invited the congregation from Shalom to actually join us. So I'm hoping they're going to be watching us too.
Cool.
That's so
That's
nice.
great.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank
That's
you.
It wasn't me, it was Nettie, not me.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nettie.
that's great. Very cool.
So yeah, we did mention Paul as our wonderful narrator, and Sherry helped with costumes and other production elements. Didn't you do costumes? And you definitely told Paul what to do. I think there was a lot of that.
This was sent around. So this was me. This was who I was modeling the Haman character on, was the wicked stepmother. I wanted to show you an example of, here's some music from one of the songs, and I whited out all the words and then would write in the words that we wrote. And I was writing in some of the drum beats and things like that. But just to get a sense of what has to be done, prior to help people learn the music. It's quite an undertaking for everybody, but really just amazing, such a good spirit. Any other questions?
Did you have a question?
I was going to ask, Rabbi, how long ago was the Purim Schpiel actually begun? Was it in the Middle Ages or later?
So it's a good question. We don't have an exact answer to that, but it is certainly Middle Ages is when it's kind of formalized, and the Western theater is really kind of based on the Commedia dell'arte. The whole thing of stock characters, and on the church's morality plays. I think there's a really interesting contrast that's important with that, because the morality plays were put on by the church in public settings because people weren't literate. And they didn't want people to read the Bible, because then, God forbid, they would interpret it. And interpretation belonged to the church leaders. So illiteracy was actually an important part of the religious control of the church. But they would put on these plays to kind of teach the Bible stories and teach morality. The Purim Schpiel was exactly the opposite. Everybody knew the stories. Everybody was literate. Everybody had read the Megillah, and the people who were putting on the plays would often be, the rabbis or other highly literate people. And so it was more subversive in a way, because you already knew the story, and you could do this kind of playing around. You weren't trying to teach the story to begin with. So I think satire and that kind of mode was kind of really carried through by the Purim Schpiel. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to add it. It was traditional on the day of Purim that you would, not at lunch, not at dinner, you would have this Suda, you would have this meal later in the day, like later in the afternoon, and you would make Kiddush. And that was an opportunity actually for the Spieling, for the play. Spiel means play in German, or Yiddish. So you were kind of showing off how erudite you were, because you were taking different verses from different places and you would interpolate them into the words of, say, the Kiddush. And then people in the know would be like, oh, that was from Midrash Rabbah, that very, clever. So it was exactly, as you say, it was exactly the opposite. This was actually a feat of knowledge for us.
Of course, because we have the Midrash tradition, where that was part of the interpretation of the verses, were to tell these stories. That whole notion of storytelling. And exactly what Cantor is talking about, that sort of erudition, and that you would use verses from different places and tie them all together. That was kind of built in. So when it becomes part of the Purim Schpiel, people understand the modality.
it's all the more amazing when we know that you were supposed to drink until you couldn't remember anything, and yet they're remembering all these interesting.
Yeah, probably drinking after, but it's true. Yeah, actually, I'm not sure how old that is either. That notion that you're supposed to drink heavily. I'm pretty certain that's fairly modern, but I don't know the origin of that.
Rabbi, did you have to pay royalties in order to use Disney scenes and music?
Yeah, great question. Of course, because we're doing this all the time. We're pulling often from Broadway musicals, movies, and other kinds of things. And I'm told we're protected because it's satire. So if anybody asks a question, it's satire. No, it's satire. It's really satire. And also because we don't make any money off of this. We don't charge anybody to participate. But I did notice I've put the video up on YouTube already. It's in a private, so you're not going to be able to see it yet. But on Friday, you'll be able to watch it off of YouTube. And the second it was uploaded, there was a notice that there was a copyright infringement. So just like before, so that you can't buy ads, which is the only thing that matters. I don't think Disney lawyers are going to come after us. Hope not. But generally, it's considered under fair use.
Sherry has a question. Sherry, you're muted.
Yeah, she's attempting to unmute. There we go.
I found it. Okay, I just want to say fabulous, Rabbi. That was a fabulous editing job from just a little bit we've seen. Bravo to you. And I'm so excited to watch this. And this year, I wasn't able to costume the same way I had in the past because we were virtual. I only had fun buying Paul's, but I coached him in Yiddish accent. That was my big role.
Dialect coach
and acting, right?
The dialect coach is a big job. That's pretty serious. There's lots of money to be made in that.
I always recall that Elie Wiesel wrote about how even in Auschwitz there was a Purim Schpiel, and he wrote about it in a book with a spiel within a spiel within a spiel. The trial of God.
Where he puts God on trial. So using that notion of the play, but for a very serious purpose. Yeah, really powerful. Thank you.
Anita?
Oh, you need to unmute. Actually, if you just hold down the space bar, that usually, okay, there you go. Now you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. So I wanted to say it was just so great hearing your glorious presentation. And I'm just thrilled that we decided to change and do this. Like it was only about 4 days ago that we found out because of the power that our previously scheduled person who will be probably a speaker in April couldn't do it. And this was just marvelous. It's just the joy that we need right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anita.
Thanks for
really,
asking us.
Yeah, we're really honored. Please.
Rabbi Joseph, do you have anything you want to add from your any giveaways?
I hope that we reprise the Disney Spiel in person. Also, how much I love Disney, but it is really impressive. I mean, the Spiel is always impressive, and the amount of work that goes into it. I think, as you've shared, and the months and months. I mean, sort of like as soon as high holidays are over, rehearsals start. I mean, the writing happens even before that. But this year, I mean, I think I told our little group that was talking about this last week that, I had one line and it was still an hour recording, to do the one line. This was a lot of work, as everything in pandemic. So it is really, really impressive. I'm excited to see everything all put together in a few days.
Thanks. And with Sherry and Paul on the line, we really can't compliment Eric enough, who really takes this on. He's a busy guy, is running this major corporation and flying all over the world in pre-pandemic times, and is just like so dedicated to writing these songs, listening to it constantly, and like, oh, this would be great, and sending us versions, and we send back comments. But it's really his creation, and then his great love of directing it, and really building, as I said earlier, building community, right? Getting everybody to just feel so good about the parts that they have, whether it's Rabbi Joseph's being modest, she has more than one line, but whether it's one line or whether it's a major character, that every participant feels very special in this process. He's excellent at that.
So
think
yeah, so
Sally
maybe we'll.
or-
Oh, Sally.
Rita.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, or Rita.
Rita.
I was just wondering, some of the newer members haven't heard some of the amazing past Purim spiels. Are any of those filmed and somehow accessible? I've heard so much about them, but I haven't been able to see them yet.
So it was they were all filmed, I think all filmed. And what most of the time, as you saw the different qualities in that introductory piece, most of the time they were filmed just for our own reference. And then over time, we had them more professionally filmed. Tony Barbon would come in and do the filming. We have, over the past years, we've released individual songs. And much of that, like with MLK, much of that is on our YouTube channel. So you can kind of go in and see these individual songs. We've only done one or two where it's been the full spiel. We did that. I think we did that last year, and maybe others. So there are a few where you can see the whole thing, but there are lots of, just going in and watching a song, kind of along the lines of those little takes that we saw earlier. It's really sweet and cute. You get a good idea of what it's about from watching those.
I think also this year's is maybe the first one that is subtitled, because Rabbi typed in all the subtitles, which makes it great, because then you can really appreciate the witticism of all this writing, which you miss when you're in the actual,
Yeah, we generally put the words up on the sides, but I think it's hard to watch the show and look at the slides on the side and really get the words. So this, having it subtitled has been really great. And we are making available a book that you can download and print out yourself that has the lyrics to the entire show. And all of the participants in it. It's a real, and lots of the graphics as well. So it's a kind of handy and fun keepsake to use. But the entire show is captioned. And I think, going forward, we're going to try and do that as much as possible. It's the right thing to do. Make sure that we're as accessible as we can possibly be, and give you a chance to really enjoy Eric's witty dialogue. And with the YouTube ones, even the ones that we didn't caption in the past, the nice thing is that YouTube has an automatic captioning. It's not great with music. So you could probably get some of the lyrics, but definitely not all of them, but even on the past spiels.
I also wanted to, before we log off, I wanted to put in a plug for our Hamantash and cooking class, which is tonight at 6:30. So Sherry, thank you for sending in our gluten-free option. And so I'm going to be with Janice Sloniker-Berman, who is an amazing baker. And I'll just be the comic relief, but it'll be fun. So if you can, all the information on that should be on the website. Sherry's muted. You're muted if you want to say something.
Those things move around, so I have to. No, it wasn't. It was top right. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you all for participating today. It's always fun to see all of you. I love you all. I love being part of this congregation. Cantor I won't be there tonight because tonight is also the Asian discrimination.
Right. Yeah, I
That
know.
to be
So many good options around. Well, whatever you go to, enjoy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's important. So,
And
and I always
thank
Hamantaschen, but I think I remember you didn't like Hamantaschen, Cantor. Didn't you say that?
I'm just not a good baker. But Rabbi Cahana's previous cantor in New Rochelle wrote, peanut butter, puppy, pruner, chocolate, Hamantaschen. If Purim is the holiday, the snack you will be noshing. It's Haman's hat or ears or eyes. On this I am not joshing. Peanut butter, puppy, pruner, chocolate, Hamantaschen.
Oh,
So there you go.
Nicely done.
does that mean we can use almond butter in the Hamantaschen?
Oh, I think you use whatever you want. I put
Whatever's
chocolate
lying
chips and
around.
some for my kids. Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, go wild. Rabbi Joseph made some beauties. So what did you put in yours? Apricot and.
Yeah, this was the best year they turned out this year. I'm sorry, we made them before the class because we needed when we could have everyone's attention. We did the Joe Nathan recipe this year with the orange juice. I put some fresh squeezed orange juice in the batter. I don't know if that's what, but they were really good. And did the let it go overnight and then thawed out. And we put all sorts of different jams and Nutella and peanut butter and I mean all sorts of crazy, but they definitely like held together for the first. I don't know. I really feel like every year it's just like a wish and a prayer, and you'll see. And this year they turned out really, really well. So I wish you all that in this year of crazy, your Hamantaschen don't look like the chaos of the world. But
when you wish upon a Schpiel,
it's a blessing. It's a Hamantaschen blessing from the rabbi.
It was a Hamantaschen blessing. Yes.
All
I'm
right,
gonna try
everybody.
yeasted
I have
Hamantaschen
one more
on my next
Schpiel
one.
question before we go.
okay.
One more question. Okay.
What are we doing next year?
Someone, am I muted?
No, you're good. You're good.
No, you're good.
So someone asked if you're not a choir person or you can't even sing that well, but you love the idea of being involved in the Schpiel. Are there ways to be involved next year?
Yes, the only requirements to be on the Schpiel is that you're a member of Congregation Beth Israel, and usually it's 13 and over, unless we have a specific kid, portion where we'll invite the children. And you don't have to be able to sing because, as you can see, I mean, we need people to help make props and costumes and sets. Sometimes we have, actual backdrops and things like that. So there's lots and lots of ways to get involved. People to run lights, people to run. When we're actually in person, there's a lot of pieces to this. So.
Notice that want to remember that this is part of our Kol Echad choir, the congregation's volunteer choir that Cantor runs, and we have participation all through the year at MLK, various holidays, high holidays. So it's not just about the Schpiel.
And as my late dear friend Jay Ginsburg used to tell me, acting, schmacting, talk loud, look good.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of the same
Good
thing.
advice to a professional.
With the singing, I mean, you want to over enunciate and have a good presence, and takes you a long way.
And enjoy.
All right.
That's the main thing.
Purim,
Happy Purim, everyone.
Purim.